Good evening and welcome. In case you've just tuned in, the big story all of India has been waiting for, the rollout of the COVID vaccine. It seems to be just a matter of time. An expert committee which was looking into data submitted by the Serum Institute of India, which is manufacturing the Oxford vaccine in India, and also data submitted by Bharat Biotech, has reached some preliminary conclusions and sources indicating that in fact the Serum Institute of India's vaccine, which is the Oxford vaccine, has been sent for approval to the Drug Controller General of India, and that is seen to be primarily it's something that's going to happen sooner than later, perhaps in the next little while, and then that process of rollout starts as well. Well, joining us now, Dr. Randeep Guleria. Thanks very much for being with us. It's a great day for all of us. We've spoken about this for so long. And this day is upon us now. Will this be cleared by the end of the day officially in terms of a sanction?
So I'm not sure about that, but it's great to learn that the committee has approved it or has cleared it, because there were certain issues that that had been raised by the committee in the past. And if Serum Institute of India has resolved them, then they would give their recommendations to the DCGI, and hopefully within a short span of time, the DCGI, based on the recommendations, would be able to give emergency use authorization. It's great news, especially as far as the new year is concerned, because this brings in a lot of hope and would therefore mean that very soon we would be able to roll out the vaccine program. This vaccine also suits our country, and therefore it would be easier to really give it to the large number of people. We will have to give it to decrease our mortality and to break the chain of transmission and bring down the number of cases.
So 30 crore people, as I understand it, have been identified in 3 priority groups. How many crore vaccines presently existed, because they were stockpiling these?
So I think what the data suggests is that Serum Institute has around 50 million doses currently available as far as stockpiling is concerned. But once they get the green signal, they would be able to regularly produce more of the vaccinations on a regular basis, which could then be provided to the government. And we're also hopeful that the other manufacturers who are also doing trials, and in many of them the trials are actually in the final stage, the Bharat Biotech and the other the Russian vaccine, they would also get approval, so that in a short span of time we will have multiple manufacturers, and that will increase the number of doses that are available to us to vaccinate the large population of our country which needs to be vaccinated.
Now, this is an important point. So what you're suggesting is that we've got enough 50 million or odd vials. That's enough for the first dose for a large number of people, and now that emergency use authorization has been given, they can start immediately manufacturing more. So that just adds to the number. By the time it's somebody needs to go for their second dose, the production would have been ramped up. So is that how it would work?
Correct. So it's an issue of, once you have an ongoing supply chain, then you need to keep on having the production going on a regular basis and sort of feeding the needs in terms of providing the doses, which can then be distributed across the country. And as other vaccine manufacturers come in, the number of doses in the next few weeks will really become more and more, and therefore we will be able to vaccinate a larger number of people in the coming few weeks.
How soon do you expect, ballpark, not the exact day, that Bharat Biotech or the Sputnik vaccine would reach a decision stage?
So in my mind, Bharat Biotech is also almost near at the final stage, and I would be hopeful that in the very near future they should also get the clearance, because they have done phase 1, phase 2, and a significant part of phase 3 trial has also been done. And this vaccine uses a platform which is a standard platform for even previous vaccines, well tried out platform, unlike the Pfizer vaccine, which used a new platform of the messenger RNA. And therefore the safety signals that we've seen from the phase 1, phase 2 trial are very encouraging. The vaccine should therefore hopefully get approval in the very near future, and that will really be a big boost for us, because that is truly a Make in India vaccine and will help to supplement the doses that we need, which would be provided by Serum Institute. And I'm hopeful that then subsequently the Dr. Reddy's laboratory, the Russian vaccine will also come in. So I think over the next few weeks, we would have more manufacturers. The actual number of doses available will be much more, and therefore it will be easier to really deliver the subsequent doses that we need to do.
Is it a matter of concern that we don't have any efficacy number on Bharat Biotech so far?
So I think the efficacy number needs to be looked at. When you're looking at a phase 3 trial, you have to see the efficacy. And currently you don't have the efficacy data because you haven't broken the code. So this is a randomized trial. You don't know who's getting the vaccine and who's getting the placebo. And therefore you can't really comment on the efficacy. If one will have to see that there is sufficient data or sufficient number of events, if I put it that way, that there is sufficient number of people who've got COVID infection. And then when you break the code and you see how many of them were vaccinated, how many were not vaccinated, then only can you get the efficacy data. But there is some efficacy data based on what they did in phase 2 and phase 2, because they vaccinated individuals then also, and they have followed them up now for almost 2-3 months and tried to see how many of them were protected from getting COVID infection. So although that is not that solid data as one would want from phase 3, there is some efficacy data or some signals from that data, but I would still want that they are able to give us more data before we are sort of comfortable. But I haven't seen the data, so I really can't comment on it.
Are they filling up, vaccine trial candidates fast enough? People, coming forward to be a part of the trial, because there were some reports which suggested that that was a problem.
So there was a problem initially, but even in our center initially, we had a little bit of a problem. But now our recruitment rate has really gone up, and we have actually reached the target. We're doing very well, and number of people volunteering for the vaccine has now really become significant. And therefore, I'm confident that within the next few weeks, we will have robust data even from the Bharat Biotech. Remember, this is emergency use authorization. So we will continue to monitor these vaccines, even the Serum Institute of India vaccine, over a period of time, because we don't have data as far as Serum Institute is concerned regarding large number of Indians being vaccinated. The data that they have from the efficacy is basically from UK, from Brazil, and from South Africa. We are extrapolating that data, but there can at times be ethnic variation, and there can be a difference between the trial efficacy and how efficient the vaccine is when you're trying it in real life rollout. So we need to follow up these patients even when they're given the vaccine for a sufficient period of time, both to see how immunogenic the vaccine is, what is its efficacy, what is the immunity, and importantly for any long-term side effects which may have been missed in the phase 3 trials.
Okay, so Dr. Guleria, as we've done in the past, let me just put out some frequently asked questions pertaining to the situation we are at today. So you've already mentioned 30 crore people, 3 priority groups. We do know that. How do you identify people with comorbidities below the age of 50 or above the age of 50? Who'll get it first?
So we're already doing that. I'm chairing that committee, and we've sat even today, and we've come out with a grid where we've developed criteria, whether it be diabetes, whether it be chronic respiratory diseases, chronic renal diseases, and a scoring system to try and see how we can score those, because in them also you'll have to prioritize. A person who has well-controlled diabetes is only on diet for his control of diabetes, as compared to someone who's been on, let's say, insulin for 10 years or has kidney damage because of diabetes or eye problem. That the person with the long-standing diabetes becomes a higher priority than a person who is stable and is diabetic but only on diet control. So we've tried to develop a scoring system for various disorders which are comorbidities, and that is now going to be given to the NEGVAC for having a look at, and hopefully by the end of this week we will have, or early next week, we will have a objective criteria-based diagnosis for comorbidities, which can be done at a smaller hospital or at a GP level also.
Okay. Question number 2, how do you get the vaccine?
So there is a whole mechanism in place. Once we have the priority groups, then their data is uploaded into the app and the dashboard which the government has created, which is known as CoWIN. And once that is done, it then coordinates with the number of doses available at that site and the site that has been designated for vaccination. and then the individual whose name is uploaded gets an SMS on his official on the number that he's given, that you are due for your vaccination on such and such date and such time at this place. And then he will turn up. That is going to be like the polling booth mechanism. And there we will have vaccinators who will be able to give the vaccine.
Okay. Next question, how much will it cost? Who pays?
So currently the vaccine cost is being supported by the government. So this will be something which will be done as a part of the government initiative as other vaccine programs. So I don't think it's going to really cost anything.
And so, doctor, that's important, because there was this entire conversation on states having to share costs. The center would bear some part of it. What you're saying is that the center is going to be paying for the drug across the country.
So I'm not aware of that, but I'm sure that the person who's getting vaccinated is not going to pay for it.
Right.
What is the mechanism between the state and the government is something that I'm not privy to.
Okay. The next question. How many doses are needed for this to be effective? And this is important because people will go take an injection and say that, look, I've got my injection, I'm good to go. That's not the case, is it?
Correct. So this is an important question now, because there has been a variation in what the UK regulators have done. They have changed the goalpost for the second dose. For the AstraZeneca vaccine, the second dose is usually given on the 28th day. And we know from whatever immunogenicity data that we have that the first dose gives you some immunity, but to really get the best immunity, you have to get the second dose, because it really gives a good T cell immunity also, and the memory cells also get stimulated, and therefore it gives you a higher degree of immunity, which is even long lasting. Now in the UK, because of the increasing number of cases, they have decided that you could get the first dose, and then the second dose could be given from 28 days to 12 weeks. And they have some data which is based on the study which was done in Brazil, where half dose and full dose was given, where some doses were also given later on, and they found that the immunity was also maintained or better when the dose was given later on. The advantage of that is that you can give a larger number of people at least one dose and theoretically give them some immunity. So they have now changed the goalpost in UK for the AstraZeneca vaccine. They're saying that first dose can be given to a larger number of people, and then subsequently between the 20th day to 12 weeks, when more doses are available, the second dose may be given. Logistically, it's very difficult because you are changing your goalpost and you're having too much of a wide range to really fix the date of vaccination. But what it tells us is that it doesn't have 28 days is not sacrosanct. And if we are to roll out a program in our country, we will have some sort of leeway towards the date of the second dose, which will be helpful in logistically.
When would you decide that? The space, for example, in the case of the Oxford vaccine, once it's rolled out in India, when would people need to take the second dose? When will you decide that?
So I think that has to be decided by our regulators and the committee looking at the data based on what was done by the UK authorities. Currently, we would stick to the 28-day schedule because that is what was done in the trial, that we give it on day 0 and day 28. So I don't think we're going to change that right now, but I'm just mentioning that there is a little bit of a change in the trial schedule which has been initiated in the UK so as to cover more and more people as far as the first dose is concerned. We are not looking at it right now.
And again, what is the efficacy of this drug? Do you have a clearer understanding based on the newly submitted data?
The efficacy of the vaccine?
Of the Oxford vaccine.
So the efficacy of the Oxford vaccine, based on what is available, and it's in public domain because they published the data.
But beyond that, Dr. Guleria, I mean, we know that
India is very similar to what the data is available as far as the AstraZeneca data from UK, Brazil, and South Africa is there. Efficacy ranges from 70 to more than 80%, and that is acceptable as far as the protection is concerned. This vaccine also is supposed to have very good protection in terms of severity of illness and hospitalization. Very few people actually had severe illness who were vaccinated.
Okay. What is the percentage of people in India who will ultimately need to be vaccinated?
So that's a tough question because we are looking at two things. One is the percentage of people whom we need to vaccinate who have comorbidities, and thereby we can decrease the mortality. That percentage will depend on two things. If we are able to cover more than 50 years, that which we will do in the first phase, then we will have a small percentage, probably 15 to 20% or less, who would be less than 50 years and having comorbidities. Those we would like to cover because we know that those with comorbidities, irrespective of their age, do have a higher chance of mortality. So that is one group that we will have to cover as far as vaccination is concerned. The second is how many let's say relatively healthy individuals do we need to cover so as to break the chain of transmission and bring down the cases. Now here it will also depend on how many people have already got the infection and there is some degree of herd immunity already present in our population. Combining that with the number who get immunity with the vaccine will actually dramatically decrease the number of cases. So this is something we will come to know as we start vaccinating a larger and larger number of people. And suddenly if we find that the number has dramatically come down and there is really, our R naught has really become low, it's less than 1 and much lower, then we would be confident that maybe now a sufficient mass of people have been vaccinated or are having inherent immunity, and that is not therefore going to really cause a spike in the number of cases subsequently.
How many doses are you at this stage expecting manufacture of in total across drugs?
That's a tough question that the manufacturers will be able to tell you, but I think over a period of time, we will be able to achieve our target. It's not going to happen in 1 month, 2 months. It may take up to 6 to 7 months or longer. But if we have to vaccinate a large number of our population, the high risk group, the frontline workers, the healthcare workers, plus those who otherwise also need to be vaccinated, the number of doses is going to be very, very large. Remember, we're talking of 30 crore individuals, but that means 60 crore doses. There are 2 doses that each individual needs to get. So whenever we talk of number of people who need to be vaccinated, we need to multiply it by 2 for the number that will for the number of doses, and therefore it becomes a huge number. So it's going to be a big task and it's going to take some months.
30 crore people in an ideal situation, assuming you start rolling this out in days, by when would you hope to cover them?
So I would say it will take at least 4 or 5 months.
Okay. So you'd be into May, June by the time the broader population would start getting the doses. So
yes, but there's only one rider here.
Yeah.
That it will also depend on what are the regulatory approvals for the other vaccines. Remember, we have almost 3-4 other vaccine candidates which are also going to come into the market. The Zydus Cadila, the Russian vaccine, Bharat Biotech, and possibly others may also come in. So the number of doses may increase substantially. Then the task that we have is also to deliver that many doses to the population. If we can match both of them, we may be able to achieve this task even earlier.
All right. So today is a great day, isn't it, Dr. Guleria? How often have we spoken about this?
Yes, this is actually a new beginning, and I think it's really ideal that we start the new year with such a hopeful situation, and I think this is going to really be good for this year. Hopefully, we will see the end of the pandemic this year with all of this happening.
And one final question to you, just as a doctor yourself and speaking for all the nurses, the frontline workers, not just the doctors, the cleaners, at your own hospital, who will get a jab. How important is it for them and their families, the fact that they're constantly exposed?
It's very, very important because you see, let me put it in another manner. For doctors and other healthcare workers like nurses, they are well versed with infection control practices. But when we start talking of the cleaners, the sanitary workers, or the other people, they have come onto the job. They've not gone through any formal training of infection control. And a lot of their work is such that they are exposed much more to the infection because sometimes they have to be in close contact with the patient or for other reasons. Therefore, it's very important that we cover them. And I would say that they are also an integral part of the health system, which we sometimes don't give that much of importance. It's very important to understand that every one of them has played a pivotal role. And as much as doctors, they are also very important for the healthcare system.
All right, Dr. Guleria, wonderful speaking to you. Thanks very much. Let's hope this rollout finally takes place as soon as possible. Thanks very much.